Hello. Okie dokie. I just thought I'd tune in this morning because I'm working on this painting at the moment, and yeah, I thought I'd go live and just show you what I'm doing, and I'll just spend a bit of time painting this. So yeah, if you fancy joining me for 10-20 minutes, and I'll just show you what I'm working on. So started this Cloudscape painting here. So this is a 20 inch by 24 inch Belgian linen canvas here on stretchers, and this is my reference painting. So this is a small study that I've done already. I was really happy with this. It's just this is on a 10 inch by 12 inch, and yeah, I decided to paint a larger version of it. So we'll see how we go. So I've already started blocking this in actually a couple of days ago. It's still wet. I'm using oil paint in a medium called oleo gel. So oleo gel, what it does is it thins the paint and just improves the flow. Doesn't speed up the drying time though, which is fine. I'm not in any rush with this, but it's a non-toxic product. So that's part of the reason I'm using this. Anyway, if anyone has any questions at all, just feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll answer them. But I'll just show you the colours I'm using here. So I've just got it on a palette, and I'm using titanium white, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, and phthalo green. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be working on the midground and foreground. So I made a start with the clouds and sky. Let me just check my other cameras in focus because I'm also filming this. Yeah, I made a start in the clouds and sky. The clouds probably will need to go darker, but I just want to get the rest of the colors down there on the canvas, and then I can readjust the values. So the whole idea of this painting is we've got a dark foreground here. We've got some spotlighting effect going on in the midground, and these rays of light coming out the clouds. This will ultimately be a lot brighter when it's finished. So whenever you start a painting, especially in the block-in stage, you don't want to go too light to start with. You want to hold off on your lights, and you want to be able to save your lightest value color until the very end of the painting. So yeah, this is actually, these highlights in the cloud are actually not white. It's a sort of warm gray, and there's some burnt sienna tones in it, so it's darker, so that when it's dry and I add the lightest tones in there, it should really pop out. So let me just make a start on some of the things I want to paint in the midground. So I just sort of roughly marked in where some of these tree shadows are, and I'm going to carry on with that. So let's get some. So I'm going to start with some yellow ochre and some ultramarine blue. So this creates a nice dark tone, a nice greenish color, and let's get a little bit of alizarin crimson in there just for a red element, and a tiny bit of titanium white. So that's just going to lighten the value. So just a word on tonal values, which is how light or dark your subject is. You'll find the darkest darks in the foreground, and then as the landforms recede, the darks aren't as dark and the lights aren't as light. The trees are generally tend to be some of the darkest values in the landscape. So right here in the foreground is where my darkest tones are going to be. And then as we go into the distance, the values are going to get lighter. So even these trees in the distance are going to be a bit lighter. So I'm just mixing in some titanium white into my mix. And yeah, I just want to sort of enhance some of these tree shadows a bit more. The other thing you might notice is I'm using a reasonably big brush here for the size of the painting. So this is a number 10 bristle flat. And the reason for this is because I'm not worried about detail at all at this stage. In fact, if anything, I'm kind of moving away a bit more from like really excessively detailed paintings. I'm much prefer, more looser look to my paintings, but just with a bit of detail. I still like a bit of detail, but I'm just trying to loosen up my brushwork a bit more as my painting style evolves. I'm always I'm always learning. I'm always getting inspired by new things that I see, and I feel like my painting style is always forever evolving as well, which is a good thing. Probably a few years ago, I was really into the detail, and as time's gone on and the more I've painted outdoors, I'm more inspired by the painters that use more loose brushwork. So I consider myself a realism painter, but not necessarily a detail painter. So anyway, I'm just trying to work in some of these tones here for the trees in the midground. So let's get this part covered up here. Just get that there. So the other thing is once this dries and I'm able to put another layer of paint over the top of this, this will darken up anyway. Now another thing I need to do is just break up some of these lines here as well. So I want to communicate like there's a massive trees, and probably some of these other ones I'll just make a little bit lighter. So as I say, just if anyone has any questions, just pop them in the chat. I hope you can hear me all right, actually, after all that. Can everyone hear me? Just say yes in the chat if you can hear me. Is this working? Oh yeah, it seems to be working. Hang on a minute. Just give me 2 secs. Just give me a moment. Oh, cool. You can hear me. Awesome. Thank you, John. Right. I haven't done too many of these YouTube live streams, but I thought maybe from now on I might just go live unannounced whilst I'm painting. So anyway, let's paint some of these trees in the distance. So the other thing as well with something like these distant trees, because these distant trees as well, I'm painting them as if they're in cloud shadow also. So there's not going to be a whole lot of saturated color in there. In fact, we want to make sure the colors, like a low chroma, some low chroma greens for the distance there. In fact, you can see the other color I've used there is still wet, so I can actually allow some of that to mix in a little bit. This is the beauty of painting with oils, actually, is you can blend colors and mix things in on the canvas. Having said that, you could paint this just as easily in acrylics as well. You just have to factor in that they obviously dry quicker. But... So yeah, one doing here as well is just downwards brush marks, just to communicate that there's a lot of trees there. So the distant trees. I'm just looking at my reference photos a minute. All right, here we go. So I want to paint a few trees here as well. So I've just got to make sure that they're not too dark, that's all. Let's see, we'll just pop some of those in there. You know, at the moment, they're just loose marks, so I can add detail to these later on. So I often get people say that they're struggling with loosening up their brushwork. And the way to do it is when you start painting, is don't worry about detail at all. Use the biggest brushes you can get away with, like this number 10 flat brush I'm using here, and just get the basic shapes down and get some marks down, and just focus on your tones. So focus on your values, how light or dark the areas are. So I can just give you some quick rules on values. Tonal values. I use the word tone and value interchangeably. They're kind of similar meaning. So when I say tone, I kind of mean value. But John Carlson said this in his book, Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting. And he said that the arch of the sky is some of the lightest values in the landscape. Then the ground planes of the grass is also relatively light. The slanting planes of the mountains are darker in value, and the upright planes, which are the trees, are the darkest values in the landscape. And I think that's such a simple rule to remember. And as I say, just if you want to create atmospheric depth or just depth in your paintings in general, just think in terms of value rather than color. I mean, the color is important, of course, but I think more in terms of value. And it's the values that do the heavy lifting whilst the colors get all the glory. So you can get away with not having the exact correct color, for example, so long as your values are on point. So think about the values, the lights and darks. And as I say, you'll find your darkest darks in the foreground as well as your lightest lights. Then as landforms recede, darks aren't as dark, lights aren't as light. So what I'm going to do now is, because I want to get some color down on this grass, I'm just flicking through my reference photos here. I can't find the one. Oh, I can find the one I want. Here we go. So I'm just going to get a little bit of lighter tone on the tops of these trees. So I'm using my existing, just the mix I was using for this shadow. And now I'm just adding more yellow ochre and some cadmium yellow medium. And I'm going to add a bit of cobalt teal. That's going to green it up a bit. And then let's add a bit of burnt sienna. So the burnt sienna's got it contains red. So we've got a red element in the green. It just helps to balance out the green, and it makes it look much more natural and organic. And so if you're struggling with your greens and they're just looking a bit out of control, then add a color opposite. Add something that contains red. So usually if it's something like the midground, I'll add like a burnt sienna or alizarin crimson. Foreground, I use a cadmium red light, depending on what I'm painting. Generally, the cadmium colours I just sort of reserve more for the foreground because they're much higher chroma colours. So I'm just creating a little mix here. So what I'm doing is I'm just starting off with the suggestion of the tops of these trees where the sun's ultimately going to be illuminating them. And again, there's no detail in this at all at the moment. There will be later, perhaps a little bit. But as I say, just at this stage of the painting, I'm just focusing on getting the just getting that information down and the making sure that the tonality of the painting looks good. So okay, I think we've got that there. You know what? I'm going to use the same brush. Hang on a minute. I've got a million photos here that I'm using. Okay, so I'm going to use the same brush that I'm using, and I'm going to paint this area that's in light. So if I just take my study that I've already done, you can see that it's a lighter tone there in the midground. Probably the cameras, I don't know why it sort of yellowed it a little bit, so it doesn't look as yellow as that in real life. But let me just see if I can bring that closer. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So I'm using this. So this is acting as my color study. So if you're going to do a big painting, you should always start off by sketching it first, sketching out your composition, and then you want to do a small version of it first. And even these, like, I'm using this as a color study, but you know, you can sell these as well. They make great little paintings. So I've got a few of these, you know, paintings for sale on my website or whatever. So they're good. They make great little paintings, and they're good. Like, I've just got it lent there against my easel, and I can just use it to just check off the colors there and just make sure that I'm mixing the right colors. So let me just see if I can hold this palette up here. So you can see how you can see that. So what I've done is I've just added some cadmium yellow medium here. And then I'm going to add a bit of cobalt teal. So that's just going to green it up a little bit. It's the cobalt teal. It's kind of like a, you know, turquoisey blue green, but it just increases the saturation a bit and just creates some of those emerald tones. And then let's mix in a bit of titanium white. And let's see, I reckon a little bit of alizarin crimson. So alizarin crimson, you just need a tiny amount. So it's really easy to use too much alizarin crimson. Don't want to use too much of it. So let's see, I can mark that off against my painting. That looks pretty close. So I reckon this should be all right. Let's see. I reckon we could go a bit lighter. However, I still want it a little bit darker anyway, because it will give me plenty of room to add some lighter layers of paint once it's dry, and it will help to just add more depth to it. So I'm just adding a bit more titanium white. The titanium white's going to lighten the value, but it will also desaturate the color as well. So keep that in mind. It's actually probably still a little bit too dark. Let's just get some more titanium white in there. There we go. So, as I say, feel free to ask questions. Oh, Robbie's here. Hey, Robbie. How's it going, man? Jim Cricket looks like a winterscape now. Yeah, well, it won't do soon. So is everyone else here in the chat artist? Just type a 1 in the chat if you're an artist as well. So we'll get some of these colors down here. So these blobs that I've marked in will become cows again. I'm not worried about detail at the moment, so they're just literally just brush marks, but I'll add the detail to them later on in the painting. Jim's an artist. Awesome. What do you paint, Jim? Where's everyone tuning in from as well? I'm obviously here in New Zealand, in the far north of the country. It's pretty warm today because it's summer here right now. So we're just going to paint that in. Yeah, I want some real light. So one of the reasons I paint on a white canvas as opposed to toning your canvas is because I find it a lot easier to gauge my tones off the white of the canvas, and also I found that my colors look cleaner. So I know there's a lot of artists out there that tone their canvas. Nothing wrong with that at all, but I find my whole painting experience a lot easier when I paint on a white surface, and also my colors look cleaner. So I used to paint on a toned canvas. Sometimes I still do now and again. I'm not against it, but I just prefer painting on a white canvas. So let's see what we got in there. John's in Chicago and Jim is in Virginia. Awesome. I've been to Virginia once, actually. I went to Lynchburg for a few days. I lived in the United States for a couple of years back in the day when I used to be an arborist. I was working for a tree company in a place called New Rochelle in just outside of New York City in Westchester County. Alrighty, so as I say, like at this stage of the blocking, like you don't need to be, precious about what you're doing or anything like that. I mean, you obviously want to get your colours and tones reasonably on point, but I mean, it's all about just getting the paint down on the canvas, and then you can start making the adjustments and changes and whatever needs to be done. And you know what, even if it's just not working properly or things are a bit off, it's no big deal, especially with oil paints, because worst comes to the worst, you can just wait for it to dry and paint over it, or you can just use a rag and just just wipe it off. So anyway, this is where my lighter tones are going to be. Let's bring that right forward there so that interesting to see how this looks. So I want this a bit darker on this side. So I want the highlight. I'm going to have the highlight around here. Spotlighting effect is just it's a really cool thing to do with on landscape paintings. So what I'll do actually, I'm going to use this existing green I've just mixed, and I'm going to start darkening it. So like some of the hills they're half in light and half in cloud shadow. So let's get some ultramarine blue here. We'll get some more yellow, cadmium yellow medium. Let's see if I can hold that up. There's some of this alizarin crimson on there, so I'll just bring that in. So as I say, the alizarin crimson, you only just need a small amount of it. Let's add a bit more teal as well. Some nice cool tones in there. And let's get a bit of yellow ochre as well. So that will just add some warmth in places. And you know what? The other cool thing to do as well is I like using broken color where the colors not mixed together thoroughly. So you get some of the individual, paint hues coming through. And that can just be a really awesome effect as well. So we're just getting this down. We can just bring in some of these darker tones here, towards the back of in the distance. Another thing I do during the blocking stage is I do something called restating the dark values. So it doesn't matter if some of this paint's smudged or anything like that. Just the important thing is just get the paint on the canvas. Get the paint on the canvas, and then then we can start modifying things and refining things after that. I'm just got to be careful I don't apply too much pressure on here because my easel isn't that sturdy, so I don't want my painting falling off. So there we go. Nice loose brushwork. And you know what? The cool thing about using loose brushwork, especially to begin with, is it just gives your painting loads of just like life and vitality to it and makes it look like it's alive. Let's see if we've got any questions here. Mike from the Netherlands, and you're a beginner landscape painter. Awesome. Well, you've come to the right place, Mike. I'll give you as many tips as I can. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, it is a beautiful place. This place I'm painting at the moment is down the road from where I live, and I've just been really inspired to go down there and paint at the moment. In fact, let me just show you, because I've been doing quite a bit of bit of plein air painting recently. So I'll just show you some of the. This is my most recent one here. It's just a study of a willow tree. So it's it's a rural area. There's a lot of farms around here and stuff, and Northland in New Zealand where I live is a lot of rolling hills. So I mean this was another plein air painting. It's actually from the same location, this one. And then this one, obviously, which I made a recent YouTube video on this, so you can go and watch that. Again, it's all about just capturing the atmosphere and the colors and tones and stuff. So this just painted on plein air. And you see something like a painting like this, there's no detail in it, but I mean, to me, it still looks, it still looks pretty realistic. Your brain fills in the rest of the information. So, but anyway, yeah, we'll carry on with the painting here. So we're just going to mark in the colors here. So this is, you can see where the spotlighting effect is going to go. Probably I just need to be a little bit careful about where the spotlighting is, because I don't want it right in the middle. So some tips on composition as well is we don't ever want our focal area in the middle, and we don't ever want our horizon line in the middle either. So with something like this, because one of the main features of this painting is the clouds, I've gone for a lower horizon here to really make a feature of the clouds. However, if I was, say, going to, I really wanted to make a feature of, the rolling hills and things like that, I'd bring the horizon up higher. Maybe, if I really wanted to communicate, like, say it was a mountain or something, like a high mountain, I'd have it near the top, but not touching the top. So I would say with composition, that those are the, if there are two main things to avoid, it would be things in the center, i.e. centered objects, or a horizon line that goes right in the middle. So either go for a lower one or a higher one. And yeah, you can't go wrong there. And then the other thing to watch out for in composition are things like repeating shapes and masses, or repeating lines. And, it can take a little bit of a while to get your head around it. I know when, I'm still learning to paint, but I mean, when I was really, making some breakthroughs, I had help from Andrew Tischler in 2015, but I mean, he was teaching me about composition, and it took me months and months to even really start to get the hang of it with the composition. And even now, sometimes I feel like I still haven't completely cracked it, but yeah, it's you want to try and sort of like lead the viewer into the painting, if you see what I mean. So I mean, this is obviously a cloudscape, so that this is going to draw the attention here. I mean, it might not look like it so much now, but once this is dry and I start getting some darker values in the clouds and really start emphasizing this light, it's really gonna come out. Yeah, it's a relatively simple composition. I've often found that the more simple compositions actually tend to make the best paintings. So yeah, you don't have to overcomplicate your compositions either. So let's work on the grass and foreground. You know what? I just want to take a quick photo of this. Let me just grab my phone. So I always like to document what I'm doing as I'm painting, and I recommend you do the same, because actually there's a bit of glare off that, so I'm just gonna just turn that other light off a sec whilst I just take a photo. I've been taking progress shots of my paintings for years, and they're good for social media. So if you ever want to like start promoting your artwork online, or you just want some content to come up with, especially on things like Instagram and stuff like that. Quite often it's not possible to post a finished painting every day, because it can take you ages to do a painting. I mean, but one of the things you can do is you can make posts where you show some of your progress shots, if you see what I mean. I make these Instagram posts. I'm making some at the moment where I've just divided the post into like 4, and I've just got a few progress shots. So this is why I always take progress shots as well. I've also written blog posts from these. I've been writing a blog for years, and it's it's a good way of getting traffic to your website. So even if you're a complete beginner as well, just document what you're doing. And it's also good to just sort of go back and see what you've been doing as well. Let's see if we've got any questions. Jim says, I love them. Oh, nice to have that beauty nearby. Yeah, absolutely. It's so beautiful where I live. I like the baby blue behind the clouds. It gives depth to the nearby clouds. Yeah, sure. Is there a do-it-all blue oil paint? I mean, I would say the most versatile blue oil paint to use is ultramarine blue. Hang on, let me just get my photo back up. Yeah, I would say ultramarine blue is probably the most useful blue you can use. You can adjust it. I mean, I use the other blue I'm using is cobalt teal. This isn't essential. You can even use phthalo green. So, for example, if you want a more of a greeny blue sky, you can mix ultramarine blue, phthalo green, and titanium white, or you could use cobalt teal, ultramarine blue, and titanium white. So yeah, I would recommend ultramarine blue. I'd probably steer clear from colors like Prussian blue. It's a beautiful color, but it's just way too high chroma, and it can make the colors on your painting look a bit awful. I mean, in general, I would recommend just using fewer colors. I'm using 9 here. I don't think you really need any more than that. Just this is my personal opinion. I've just used an 8 for years. I've just recently added cobalt teal back on there again. But you don't need that many colors. I just find the more colors you add, the more confusing it gets. And when you have less colors, you're more likely to use the colors you got on your palette. So you can have better color harmony, which means your paintings will look nice to the viewer, and your color mixing will improve because you'll just have a better understanding of color. So yeah, don't overcomplicate it. I find this with painting in general. Just don't overcomplicate the composition. Don't overcomplicate the color mixing, and don't overcomplicate the process. And when you simplify things, just everything's so much easier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the grass in the foreground. So I'm actually using the same brush here. So I've just added a lot of ultramarine blue. So I'm keeping in mind that grass is one of the more lighter values in the landscape, but it is in shadow. So I want this dark enough that it really stands out that it's in shadow, but not too dark. So I'm going to add some. I'm just going to mix up a bunch of colors here. So we'll just add in some cadmium yellow medium. Let's add a bit of phthalo green as well. We'll get a bit of cadmium red in there just for a red element. Not mixing the colors together thoroughly. We can add some white. We'll even add a bit of yellow ochre as well. So you can see that I haven't mixed it together thoroughly, and we'll just start marking it in. We'll just see what comes through. If it's a bit too dark, we can lighten it. It probably doesn't matter if it's a bit too dark now, because we want to go, as I said earlier, when you're painting, you want to start darker in general, and then hold off on your lightest tones. Save those towards the end. But here we're fine anyway. I mean, actually these clouds will probably need to be a little bit darker. That's fine. Might even be able to work in some more paint to it anyway. And the one thing you don't want to do is go too light to begin with, because if you blow out your whole kind of value range right earlier on, then you've got nowhere else to go when you want to add details. Yeah, so we don't want to go too light to begin with. So what I'm doing here is I'm just like, broad brush marks and then just downwards brush marks in the direction that the grass is growing. We can add some dark shadows into this in a moment. Probably going to have to mix up a big chunk of colour here. Let's get some more yellow ochre. We've got some phthalo green as well. So that, as I say, the phthalo green, you just mix it into the existing green and it really greens it up. I don't really use this on its own. Super high tinting strength in this color. Like, it's a super powerful color. So you don't need a lot of it. It'll quickly overpower your mixture otherwise. Let's just get some more of this pale drying gel. So as I say, the pale drying gel is just derived from linseed oil and it's not toxic. So when painting with oils, there's, in my opinion, not really any reason to be using toxic solvents. So you don't really want to use solvents. The only time I'm using solvents, and it's because I'm lazy, is when I'm cleaning my brushes. But even that, I'm trying to. I'm going to be trying out some new things to like clean my brushes where I don't need to use solvents. Like you can use linseed oil and dish soap to clean your brushes. So, because I know a lot of people, they can be scared of trying oil paints, and in my opinion, they're the easiest to paint with. But a lot of people are put off because they think they have to use solvents and stuff, and you absolutely don't. In fact, I'd advise against it. I don't even use Liquin Original in the studio anymore, and Liquin, it's used to speed up the drying time. But I've stopped using that as well because I don't want to be. That stuff's quite nasty as well. So just go for the non-toxic products. This is made by a company called Rublev, which is based in the United States. I think the website name is naturalpigments.com. Let's get some brush marks down now, see if we've got any questions. Let's have a look. Yeah, as I say, feel free to pop in your questions there, and we'll get the rest of this. Green down. I think we're going to need quite a bit of paint here, so I'm just like recharging my mixture. So cadmium yellow medium, ultramarine blue. Let's get a bit of yellow ochre, bit of phthalo green, bit of cadmium red light, and a tiny bit of titanium white. So I've got quite a lot going on there in terms of the color mixing. Really hoping my canvas is properly locked in there. It should be fine. I haven't got the sturdiest of setups here. I've got a tiny art studio. My art studio is really small. It's like literally couldn't swing a cat in here. So I'm a bit limited for space. This easel I'm using, normally the legs extend, but it's just going to take up more space. I've sort of set it up on a table instead. But it just means I've got to be a bit careful when I paint on it. Okay, so let's get some more color on here. Bit of titanium white. One of the other things I can do, I'm just going to use the same brush actually, is there's some some other plants growing in there, and there's some kind of crimson tones in there, so I could get some alizarin crimson, just mark that in there, bit of ultramarine blue, bit of alizarin crimson, bit of yellow ochre. get a bit more ultramarine blue. But we can just mark in some of those as well. This can help with. I want to subtly lead the eye this way as well. So let's see how we're going to do that. Let's bring it out over here. So just adding in some of these other tones in there, it's just going to add interest. Again, no detail at this stage. Once this is dry, we can work in some more. Let's get some more green again. The thing with using these with big brushes to start with is you can just be free and expressive with your brushwork. I mean, another thing with painting grass, you really don't want to be painting every single blade of grass. It just it can make your painting just look too overworked. I mean, it depends how detailed you want to go, but it's not the way I'd want to paint it. I don't really like spending too long on paintings as well, to be honest. I like to get them done relatively quickly and then move on to the next one. Because I think there's a danger if you spend too much time on a painting that you kind of like lose your momentum for it, and then perhaps they don't come out as well as you'd expect. So I prefer to just get my paintings done as quickly as I can. I'm almost treating this like a giant plein air painting room. Okay, let's get a bit more ultramarine blue in there. So one thing I like to do with grass, just some sweeping horizontal brush marks, and then just go downwards as well to just make it look like grass. Just give that paint some texture. Then when it's dry, you've got something to work on as well. You can just build on that texture. And the original, the photos, it's got a road in it, but I didn't like the road, so I've taken it out altogether. So another thing, when you're creating compositions, is you can move things around, you can take things out, you can add things in. You don't need to be beholden to the photo. So yeah, you can definitely feel free to create your own composition, because you're an artist at the end of the day. You're trying to create a painting, not a photograph, and we want to communicate like atmosphere and feeling and the essence of the location that you've been in. Like, I mean, this whole area here just really speaks to me. I just all the range of greens and rolling hills kind of reminds me of Devon in England, where I grew up. So I just love painting outdoors here. I'm going to be spending a lot more time doing some plein air painting. Just love it. Okay, we're good in there with the foreground. Let's see. Your thoughts on panel versus stretched canvas? Do collectors prefer one over the other? I love painting on panels, absolutely. You know what? I prefer painting on panels more than just stretched canvas. So my thoughts on it, I don't, in my experience, collectors don't mind, because I've sold, I guess I've probably actually sold a lot more of my panels. Admittedly, they've been smaller paintings than my larger ones. So These panels I get here. So this is from this brand called SourceTech, and it's medium weave Belgian linen. It's oil primed Belgian linen, and it's glued to Baltic birch. And these are fantastic for plein air painting and doing small paintings. The other thing is, as well, is they're pretty solid. So if you sell a painting online, for example, and you ship them overseas, very unlikely that they're going to get damaged. So they're pretty sturdy. I just like the sturdiness of them, basically. And there's something about these panels, it just really makes you feel like they even smell nice. It just makes you feel like a professional fine artist. So I like these. I haven't shipped to New Zealand. The shipping costs a fortune, unfortunately. And if the shipping wasn't so expensive, I would probably paint on panels this size as well. But it's just the shipping. I think I'd have real trouble getting panels that size into New Zealand. So for the larger painting, I'd paint on loose linen. Linen stretcher, which I like painting on these as well. So larger painting, linen stretcher. Smaller painting, I'd paint on panels. But yeah, I'd say my preference is for panels, but that's just me. Just a tip on painting, if especially if you're struggling, is try and use the best quality art materials that you can get, and that will make a huge difference as well. Like, always use an artist quality oil, even if you're a complete beginner and you've never painted in your life. Always use artist quality oils. Like, true, some of them are expensive. You'll pay more for some colors, like the cadmium colors are expensive. However, I found that the expensive colors tend to last quite a while. The student oil paints are just, there's not so much pigment in them, and they're loaded with fillers and things like that. And it's actually a bit of a false economy because you end up having to use more paint. So, you just don't get as good results, which I think is one reason why some people find oils difficult. So use artist quality oils. Use high quality canvas or linen canvas. It's just, your painting experience will be so much better. Use good brushes. I use these Rosemary & Co brushes. They're not too expensive. They're super high quality. Some of them have lasted me for years. I've had this brush for years and it's still going. If you look after them, they'll last you a long time. And when you use a brand of paint, try and just stick to one brand rather than mixing and matching lots of different brands. Use that one brand, you'll get used to the colors. Also, the colors will work with each other better, and your painting experience will be better. So I'm using Blue Ridge oils. They're an American brand. Totally recommend those. They're not overly expensive. If you live in Australia, I recommend Langridge. I used to use those. I'd still use Langridge paints. They're just as good as Blue Ridge. Blue Ridge sponsor me. But Langridge are also really good as well. I think Blue Ridge, though, are definitely my favourite. They're definitely the best oil paints I've used yet, for sure. So anyway, let's just get a bit of shadow in some of these, some of the grass here, so we could just sort of get a bit of a base to work from. Let's see if we've got any more questions. Okay. As I say, feel free to keep those questions coming in. So I'm just going to add some shadows here to the grass. So I think a good go-to shadow mix with foliage and grass, trees, things like that, ultramarine blue and a little bit of yellow ochre. Makes a nice dark tone. It's got a green undertone to it. Even yellow ochre has a little bit of red in it. So you can get some nice harmonious greens. And we'll just start painting the suggestion of just a few shadows in the grass. I'm going to subtly lead the eye this way, as if there's a little bit of a like a track or something like that, just in the grass. Not not too much, but just something that's just going to lead the eye a little bit. Let's get some more colour here. Let's get a bit more ultramarine blue. Nice loose brushwork. There we go. So as I say, just adding some of these shadows just can help to create a bit of texture, and I'm going to be able to build upon this once it's dry. So I mean, when a painting's like this, it's kind of just in that the ugly stage, but it's a good solid base to work from here. I think probably what I'll do is I just want to darken these clouds up a little bit. So we'll carry on with that. Actually, I want to use one brush so far. Let's have a look. Oh my God! Finally catch your stream. I love your paintings. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this wasn't a planned live stream. I just thought, when I go live, I think I probably will do some more of these live streams, but probably more likely I'll just be turning up unannounced. So so maybe turn on, I don't know, is it notifications or something? If you do want to join live painting classes, though, I do a live painting class every week in my art school, and at the moment, so if you go in I can type in the chat as well. If you go in the description as well, there's a link to it. But we're starting a new painting course so I'm having a couple of weeks off over Christmas, but we're starting a new painting course in mid-January, and it's a weekly live painting class, which if you live in the United States is it's on a Sunday afternoon. And with the painting classes, they're done live over Zoom, and we start a painting project from start to finish. So literally from the thumbnail sketches to the main sketch, doing a value study, and then the actual painting. And we're going to be doing a seascape one next. So I'll put the link in the chat in a moment. So it's normally like $29 a month. Well, at the moment, I'm having a special offer on annual memberships where you can get an annual membership for $199. So it's like you're getting 5 months free, and I'm also giving a free bonus one-on-one coaching call as well, art coaching call. So if you want some help with your artistic journey, you want some help just with launching your art career or whatever, then the coaching calls will really help you. So as I say, I'm giving one of those away free as a bonus. I'm also giving away a free landscape painting blueprint as well. I'll pop these links in. There's also a free painting community as well that you can join. So just if you get the free landscape painting blueprint, there's a link to it afterwards. So sorry, quite a lot of stuff there, but okay, let's work on the sky. Yeah, the other thing with the painting classes is you get access to all the previous ones as well. So you can go back and watch all the other ones. Plus there's just like tons of painting tutorials on there as well that I've made over the years. There's also some free painting tutorials in the free community, but I'll pop those in the chat in a moment. Right, I just want to darken up some of these clouds. So good cloud mix here. Ultramarine blue, bit of burnt sienna. So burnt sienna is a dark orange. Desaturates the blue because orange is opposite to blue on the color wheel. and then a bit of alizarin crimson, and then we'll use some titanium white just to lighten the value a bit. So when you paint clouds, try and edge them more on the blue side rather than, you don't want to sort of like use the burnt sienna obviously, but don't add too much because you don't want to end up with a muddy looking cloud. So, clouds that tend to be like a blue grey. I mean, it depends obviously, on the lighting, but just in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a bit of just some darker tone in some of these clouds. So the paint's still wet even from a couple of days ago. Probably I might even need to wait for this to dry and then I'll add some more, but that's okay. I was going to leave the clouds for now until it dries, but I'm just now I've painted the foreground. I just want it a bit. I just want the clouds to be a little bit darker. The other thing with clouds, so as they go into the distance, they're going to get lighter. So remember, darks aren't as dark, lights aren't as light. So when you do paint your dark clouds in, they're obviously going to be higher up and closer to you. But we'll just get some darker tone in there. Hang on. So we'll just get a little bit of darker colour. Probably I think I'm going to have to wait for this to dry, but that's all right. That's the cool thing about oil paints is you've just got all the time in the world to, blend in some colours and you're not racing against the clock. As I say, nothing wrong with painting with acrylics or anything, but oil paints you've really got the freedom to take your time. Especially when you're painting things like clouds or whatever, where you're going to be blending colours on the canvas. So let's just charge up that mixture a little bit more. Just get some darker tone in here. Again, I just want to create texture, so I've got something to work from once it's dry. There's definitely some of these cloud bases are quite a bit darker, so we can start getting those in. So, like by darkening these clouds, again, we've got to be real careful though, because clouds and skies are generally some of the lighter values in the landscape. So obviously the darker the clouds are going to be, the more it's going to come forward in the painting. So I've got to be careful that, like for here, I don't want to go as dark down there because otherwise it's going to bring the whole thing forward. But I want these clouds to be reasonably prominent in the landscape. The other thing is, by darkening it, it's going to create more contrast, especially when we really start adding these highlights in once this is dry. So it's going to bring the impact. So the darkest clouds are going to be up the top and here as well, but as we go into the distance they need to be lighter. So I can actually just use some of this mix and just take advantage of the wet paint and just work in some more of this texture here. Also the paint's been on there for a couple of days. I don't know if it's even started drying yet actually. Let's just get some, I might get a bit of broken colour in here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Let's just get some darker tone up the top there. Alrighty. I think that's looking a bit better already. Yeah, I probably won't want to go too much darker than that. Let's see. See, the other thing is as well is I'm trying to communicate some of these light rays coming down, and I'm starting to add it like in this early stages of the painting now, because titanium white's opaque. I've got to, or I'm just trying to sort of already build it in the beginning stages. I'm guessing if I was to use like a sort of, I've never used Crimnet's white. I believe it's a sort of semi-opaque white, so maybe you could paint that over. But I don't want to start like, I don't want to start like overcomplicating my colors. So I've got to be honest, I prefer the more just opaque colors anyway. I don't really do glazes these days either, so I used to, but not anymore. But anyway, I just want to subtly bring down some of these light rays a little bit. I'm just using a dry brush here, and then again, I've just got something to work from. When I come to start adding some detail, I've got to figure out where the sun is. It's probably going to be up around here somewhere. So. A few subtle. I mean, I'll be able to tidy all this up once it's dry, but probably there's going to be some rays in the distance there, so just start painting some of those. Yeah, and probably what we can do now is just restate some of these dark values. So like in the trees here. So let's get some ultramarine blue. We'll get a bit of burnt sienna, bit of yellow ochre, and we'll just tidy up some of these marks in the trees here. Again, once this is dry, I'm going to be painting more detail in here, or paint some reflected light in the foliage and things like that. The best thing to do with trees is because a lot of people struggle painting with trees, is just treat them as solid masses, at least to begin with. I don't try and paint every single leaf. Trees look better when you just imply detail, in my opinion, rather than trying to paint every single leaf. And we'll just bring some of these trees out a little bit. There's a little bush there. And there's a little tree there as well, so we'll just bring that up a little bit. So this is just called restating the dark values. The cows I'm just going to leave for the moment. We'll come back to those later. They don't really look like much right now. So the trees here, as I said, they're some of the darkest values in the landscape, and they're in the foreground. And so they're going to be pretty dark. And you want them pretty dark as well so that they stand out more. Just paint the suggestion of a couple of stems. And then I think the other thing we can do is just tidy up some of these shapes here a bit. So I'll just add a bit of titanium white to my mix. And we'll just tidy up the base of some of these trees here. Now we've got some of that grass in the distance. Yeah, we want to communicate like clumps of trees, and then some of the trees that are just, you know, dotted around all over the place. Let's just get the camera going again. Right, let's get some, whoops, that's probably a bit too dark. Let's get a bit of titanium white. There's some trees in the distance. So again, we can take advantage of this wet paint here and just, you know, push it up into the, push the shadow mix into the existing paint. And some more trees along there. So let's just get some other trees. There we go. Let's just tidy up these ones. Now we're almost done here with the blocking. Oops. That'll do for the moment, I think. I'll just get some of that in. And let me just get another brush. Just tidy up some of these parts here. So as I say, the cows I'm just going to come back to later on. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. Very early days with this painting, but the blockings there, and yeah, the important thing is to just check your tonal values, so your lights and darks. Make sure that everything's working. You've got a solid base to work from. So once this is dry, I can start adding detail, and it's going to make everything a lot easier. Let's see. Paul Labs. Hey, Paul, how's it going? Happy Christmas, chum. Hope all is well. Glad to catch you. Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Paul is a terrific wildlife artist. You should go and check out his YouTube channel. I believe it's, well, there you go. It's Paul Apps Wildlife Art. Check it out. He's also got a free painting community as well on SKOOL, so I'd check that out as well. SKOOL.com. So let me just, I'm going to chuck in some links here, guys. So if anyone wants to join the art school, that link there, sorry, that link there's to the free community. If anyone wants to join the free painting group, there's some painting tutorials on there. The art school, if you want to join in the live streams, I do the live painting classes. Hang on a minute. Let me just get the link. So I'll just chuck that in there. Yeah, so as I say, I've got a deal on with annual memberships that's going to be ending at the end of New Year's Day, and it's probably the last time I'm going to be doing a sale for a while. So normally an annual membership would be $348 for a limited period of time up until the end of New Year's Day, 1st of January. You can get an annual subscription for $199, and it basically means you're getting about 5 months free, and you get a free bonus one-on-one art coaching call with me as well if you take that out. And the other thing is I'll give you the link to the free landscape painting blueprint as well. So let me just get the link there. I'll chuck that in the chat for you. Let's just see if we've got any more questions. I don't know how to pronounce your name here. Laoi Art. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Effectively, you tell a natural beauty in the main port of a beautiful benediction. There is a question about what you want to see in these payments for your money. I'm not sure if I quite understand. Hang on. There is a question about what do you want to see in these payments for your money. I'll be honest, I'm not sure I understand the question. Sorry, mate. Anyway, as I say, if anyone wants to join live painting classes, links are in there. Lastly, I also have some prints available from my other websites at samuel@fineart.com. These are going to be ending soon as well. If you type in the discount code print20, you get 20% off. So check that in. That's my shameless self-promotion there. But I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I think I will do some more of these if you're interested. I can't really. I mean, it's the Christmas holidays, so everything's a bit chill here. A bit more chill at the moment. But the cool thing about the Christmas holidays is I'm actually getting the chance to do some more painting than I normally would do, which is really awesome. So I'll probably do some more of these lives. So just keep an eye out for them. I'll probably do another one. Well, maybe even this week. We'll see. Anyway. But does anyone have any more questions before I go? Jim says, thanks. Happy painting. Awesome. Happy New Year to everyone as well. Unless anyone's got any more questions of that, we'll leave it there. And just, keep an eye out for the next live stream, which will come at random because, I'll just be painting and then I'll decide if I feel like going live. Cool. Also, there's a new YouTube video out as well, which I uploaded a couple of days ago, so check that out. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you have a great new year, and I shall chat to you soon. Cheers, everyone.